From the Palatial yet not overly ostentatious studios of CBS Sports Radio here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to a Monday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all the great local CBS Sports Radio affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course streaming on YouTube, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio. 855-212-4CBS is number to jump on in, 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. Got an action-packed show for you today. We're rocking and rolling all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Got Stuart Kovacs and Carlos Ortiz with me. Ross Tucker is going to join us at the top of the hour. And then coming up in the third and final hour at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, will be Mike Golick Sr., of course, longtime talk show host, now doing a kick-ass job with DraftKings. All righty, we have our Super Bowl matchup. It is set. The San Francisco 49ers will be going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. I was in Baltimore yesterday for the AFC Championship game. We'll get to the AFC Championship game second, but let's start first and foremost with the Lions and 49ers. So I'm watching that first half of the NFC title game in the Chiefs press conference room, and I see the start that the Detroit Lions get out to, and I thought the Lions were alive to win the game heading into the game on Monday. I didn't think that was the case, but as the week did go on, I started to buy more and more into the Lions, where I did take the Lions to lose the game, but I only took them to lose the game by 1 point. I thought that was going to be a sweat it out, down to the wire type of game. But to see how the Lions controlled the game from the start, and not only controlled the game, they were trending into blowing out the San Francisco 49ers. It was amazing. It was shocking, but it was also really damn cool to see. Now, I'm walking out of the stadium in Baltimore at halftime of the NFC title game. And I call my best friend, and he has family in Detroit, and he says to me, you know it and I know it, this is going to be a game in the second half. And I wholeheartedly agreed with him. And the reason, even though the Lions are up by 17, why I wholeheartedly agreed, when you are a fan base like that, where you have been tortured for that many years, and you've been the lovable losers, in order to break through and fight through, you're going to have to get your emotions toyed with like no other. So even if the Lions were going to win that game, which they did, and a big reason why is their head coach and Dan Campbell, we'll get to him in just a second, you knew that they were going to bring you to the brink of disaster, to the brink of chaos after having pretty much what was a perfect first half. You knew that was coming in the second half, and if you were going to win the game, you were going to just squeak by at the end and avoid the disaster and avoid the catastrophic collapse. So I look at the decision-making in the second half with Dan Campbell. And let me just say this right out of the gate. Dan Campbell is a great coach. Dan Campbell has done wonders with the Detroit Lions. It takes a special person and a special attitude to get this team 30 minutes away from punching a ticket to the Super Bowl. With that being said, though, his final 30 minutes of the NFC Championship game were just disgraceful. And they were idiotic. And sometimes in sports, we use the word aggressive to justify stupid decisions. I don't do that. Like sometimes people go, oh, this guy was aggressive. Oh, this guy was great. Oh, this guy was awesome. A lot of times that aggressive word is a decision that can be stupid. And I understand, I'm fully cognizant that a big reason why the Lions got this far was the aggressiveness of Dan Campbell. I was one of the few media members who did not rip Dan Campbell a few weeks ago up against the Dallas Cowboys when he ran the two-point conversion play. The rest messed it up with the whole reporting ineligible, and they reported the wrong guy, reporting eligible, and they reported the wrong guy. And then when they got pushed back to the 7, I didn't kill him for going for it again, and I didn't kill him when Parsons was offsides, and they elected to go for it for the third straight time. I thought in that moment, being aggressive was smart. But in the NFC title game, there were two moments that I just thought his decision-making was just pure stupidity. Now, I'm not going to crush him when they're up 14. They allowed a field goal to start the second half to get it from 17 down to 14, their lead. And he had an opportunity where it was 4th and 2 at San Francisco's 28. Yeah, you could say take the field goal, get the lead back up to 17. When you were playing with the 14-point lead there, I'm okay with keeping your foot on the gas and trying to deliver the knockout blow. I'm fine with that decision. I do not crush Dan Campbell for that decision. But the two decisions that I thought were just flat out stupid, and don't tell me they were aggressive, they were stupid, was 4th and 3 after you already choked the lead away. You said goodbye to your 17-point lead. You're now down 3, 27-24. You got to keep your team in the game there. You got to find a way to get the ship back to somewhat smooth sailing when it was in the process of capsizing and sinking. You're down 3 in that spot. There's a little over 7 minutes to go. It's 27-24. Even after choking away the lead, you could have tied the game back up. And to not kick that field goal there, I was incredulous. I just could not believe, even with his aggressiveness and the style that Dan Campbell has, that he bypassed the field goal opportunity there. And they ended up having an incomplete pass. We know that the Niners take the ball down the field and they score a touchdown. They go up by 10. But the stupidity by Campbell didn't end there. And I know it's a long shot, but you got to coach until the final whistle. You got to coach until you see just zeros on the scoreboard and zeros on the time clock. You know, like, remember in the divisional round when Todd Bowles kept that timeout and then the Lions had the whole kneel down? I thought it was stupid after the game when Todd Bowles was just like, oh, well, we basically knew it was so unlikely that we weren't coming back. Like, you want to give me that bull crap in the regular season? I'm fine with that. But when your season is literally on the line and you need to survive to advance, or you go home and you start your vacations to Cabo, or you go to the golf course, you have to do everything in your power. You have to throw the kitchen sink at them until there's no more time left and you are eliminated from the playoffs. So they're moving the ball, the Lions, down by 10. And they still have 3 timeouts. So you get a field goal, you get a touchdown, you make a stop. It's a 1-score game. You have an opportunity to go tie up the game. Or, like, let's say if you got the if you get the field goal, maybe you get the touchdown the next drive and you go for 2 in the win. But you got to give your team a chance to stay in the game. And on 3rd and goal, I couldn't believe this. He runs the football with David Montgomery. And then it's one thing if you run the football in that spot. I disagree with it. Even though you're not that far out from the end zone, I think you got to throw in that spot. And he's trying to catch him off guard and get a touchdown. And Montgomery's been a touchdown machine all throughout the year. But if you're going to run the football in that spot, you have to have the next play call ready to go. And he didn't, and he called the timeout. So if you don't recover the onside kick, the game's over. Because in that stage of the game, there's like a minute left, and you only have 2 timeouts remaining. And we know how low percentage the onside kick has become. So for him, in that moment, in that spot, to have Ben Johnson run the football and then you call a timeout, you waved the white flag right there, even though your intention was to still try to go win the game. So those are the 2 decisions. And this is not me second guessing. This is not me saying, oh, well, look how it turned out. Every time there is a controversial decision, this is my philosophy. What I thought before the play, I still carry through with that thought regardless of what transpires. Because if Campbell gets one of those first downs on 4th down, everyone's praising him. And that's sometimes how it works. You go for it, you get praised. You go for it, you don't get it, you're the biggest moron in the world. And just naturally, when I'm going through that in those 3 crucial decisions that were stupid, and when you're going through them and you're like, maybe this isn't the right thing, I thought 2 out of 3 were stupid. The first one, up 14, I could live with. I'm okay with it. I get it. It's the second half. You're just trying to get to the finish line. You put another field goal there. You make it what the same score was before the end of the first half. But I'm okay with it. In that moment, they were lining up. It's 4th and 2 at San Francisco's 28. And I hear them say they're going for it. I was okay with it. I didn't crush it in the moment. So I'm not going to sit back here and now be a hypocrite and say, I told you so. They shouldn't have gone for it, because that wasn't my belief in the moment. But when you're then down 3, after you blew that lead and it's 27-24, I know it's not a lock for your field goal kicker to make that kick, but we're talking about a 47, 48-yard field goal. I know you can never trust kickers, but we're talking about a 47, 48-yard field goal. And I know it's easy for me to say this now, and I know that it's not always how the game plays out, but let me just point out the Lions lost the game by 3 points. Now, who knows what would have happened? But it is easy to say they get that field goal there. Maybe the game ends up going into overtime. And who knows what would have happened in overtime? And then the one that's not even up for debate, because I think people can debate the aggressiveness of the decision-making, going for it, 4th and short and all that. The first one, hey, I'm on the side of I was fine with it. The second one, I wasn't on the side of it. But no one can justify running the ball on 3rd down and then calling the timeout. And once again, you want to run the ball there on 3rd down, okay. You got to call 2 plays at once. And you got to get up to the ball and be ready for the next play. Or get your field goal team on the field and kick a field goal. You cannot burn a timeout there, because you had 3 in your pocket with limited time and you needed all 3 of those timeouts. So a great season for the Lions, a disastrous end. And Dan Campbell, I'm not going to entertain people today. And I see a minority of people are saying, Ben Johnson's a hot commodity. Maybe you just make Ben Johnson the head coach and you get rid of Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell doesn't deserve to lose his job. I know a lot of times in radio, I'm not saying we like to fire coaches, but we basically call for coaches to be fired. There's no way to justify calling for the firing of Dan Campbell after winning a playoff game for the first time for that franchise since 1991, winning their first division championship for the first time since 1993, and getting to the NFC title game. So you could separate those two. You could praise Campbell for this season, acknowledge this season is a success, but it also had a brutal and humiliating ending that could have gone a lot differently if the coach just made better decisions. Here is Dan Campbell, the Lions head coach, after the game on his aggressive decisions throughout the ball game, especially in the second half.
I just felt really good about us converting and getting our momentum and not letting them play long ball. They were bleeding the clock out. That's what they do. And I wanted to get the upper hand back, and it's easy hindsight, and I get it, I get that. But I don't regret those decisions, and that's hard. It's hard because, we didn't come through. It wasn't able to work out, but I don't. And I understand the scrutiny I'll get. That's part of the gig, man. But, we just didn't work out.
So it's one thing for him right after the game to say that he doesn't regret it. I wonder when he goes back and he watches the tape and he reviews that game, if like today or Tuesday or Wednesday, that answer is different. Because usually in the moment, I don't think coaches regret things when they're that fresh. But when he has time, I do think it's essential for him to realize the 4th and 3 bare minimum, down 3, when you're at the 30-yard line, after you just picked up 7, after St. Brown had that catch, you got to take the field goal there. You have to. And then also the 3rd and goal at the 1, you can't be calling a timeout. Finally, here is Dan Campbell. He acknowledges that nothing in this league is ever guaranteed.
I know how hard it is to get here. I'm well aware. And it's going to be twice as hard to get back to this point next year than it was this year. That's the reality. And if we don't have the same hunger and the same work, which is a whole nother thing, once we get the offseason, then we got no shot of getting back here. I don't care how much better we get or what we add or what we drive. It's irrelevant. It's going to be tough.
And that's the most difficult part. And I'm happy Dan Campbell acknowledged that. there's sometimes in sports you go on this magical run, and then it ends, and it doesn't end with the championship. And you walk away, like I said today, the Lions had a successful season. And you go, okay, this was a good season. And I've been there as a Met fan before, back in 2015. When the Mets got to the World Series and lost to the Royals, I was like, I didn't think they were going to get there before the start of the season. This was a phenomenal season. And then I was naive enough to say, they'll be back. You don't know if you're going to be back. And that's a conflicting part as a fan, where you're annoyed, you're heated because you had a game, you were up big, and you could have won it, and you probably should have won it. But then you take a step back and you overlook at the entire season. You go, wow, we had a really special season. But that unknown of not knowing if you'll get back, this could be, I hope it's not, but this could have been their best chance to get to a Super Bowl and then win a Super Bowl. And you never know if you're going to be able to bottle back up that energy and bottle back up that magic and find a way to get back in that moment. And that's what makes the ending for the Lions season just absolutely brutal, because you don't know. And that was a game that if I would have told you at halftime you'd be up by 17, you probably would have said, okay, you could start booking your tickets. You could start booking your plane tickets, your hotel reservations for Las Vegas, and you would have thought the Lions would have been going to the Super Bowl. How do you describe Dan Campbell's decision-making yesterday? I just think it's flat out stupid. What say you? 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. We'll take a time out here on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Ross Tucker going to join us at the top of the hour. Mike Golick will stop by at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. But when we come on back, two people for the Ravens that have been awesome and have been elite all throughout the year were nowhere to be found yesterday in Baltimore. We'll talk about those two guys when we return right here, off and running on a very busy Monday edition of the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio.
Talking to the Pro Football Hall of Famer and Emmitt Smith.
You don't have a Mahomes in Dallas. You got a Dak Prescott that's efficient a quarterback enough to throw the ball 35 times a game, maybe 40, maybe. You should have a running game that should balance that and create more opportunity for Gallups and everybody else to get down the field with play action if you run the ball effectively. If we believe in Tony Pollard that much to where we got rid of Zeke Elliott, well, damn it, use him.
Does it annoy you that Zeke's not playing for the Cowboys?
It does.
Why?
Why? Because I thought the 1-2 punch was awesome. And it does ignore me. It makes me hot that he's not a Dallas Cowboy.
This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
You can stream the NFL on Westwood One for free, sponsored by AutoZone all season long. You can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports or on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. AutoZone's free battery testing and charging is available for free at your local AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. Matt in Framingham says, Zach, let's call Dan Campbell's decision-making yesterday reckless. All capital letters. And I do agree with Matt. I thought it was stupid, and I thought it was reckless. We'll get to my point on the Ravens in just a bit, but let's open up the phones at 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227, reacting to what we saw yesterday in the NFC Championship game with what I thought was very poor decision-making 2 times in the game by Dan Campbell. Here is John in Florida first up. John, you're on the Zach Gelb Show. Go ahead. How are you?
I'm well. How are you, Zach?
Doing great.
Pleasure speaking with you.
Yeah, thanks so much.
I agree with everything that you're saying. I think Campbell should win the Dan Quinn Award for giving away a playoff game. It's just terrible decision-making. I'm an old-school guy. I disagree with you about the first field goal. I would have taken the points. I think a point that hasn't been made is the Niners fans, there was no air in that building.
Yeah.
And if you had made it a 3-score game, you would have put the Niners in desperation mode. And I understand how he wants to go for the jugular and all that, but you're not playing the Carolina Panthers. You're playing the Niners. So get your points, plus you're on the road, get your points, and then your point about not kicking the field goal, who's on the side helping this guy make these decisions? You got to kick the field goal and tie the score. It's ridiculous.
Great phone call, John. Appreciate the time. Thanks so much. And that's the thing. I feel like every time I'm watching a game or listening to a game, they go, oh, the analytics suggest to go for it here. Do the analytics ever tell you to punt? Do the analytics ever tell you to kick a field goal? And I say this all the time. Here's my stance on analytics. I like analytics. I embrace analytics. I don't live and die, though, by analytics. And what made Dan Campbell such a great coach is, yes, being aggressive, but also trusting his gut. And in this case, if that's what he thought was the best decision for his team, you got to live with it. But watching it and just listening to the game, it just didn't make sense. And this is not me second guessing. This is not me saying, I see the decision, and then I react after the play. I'm giving you just my true thoughts in the moment. That's why I made it a point to emphasize down 14. I'm okay with not taking the field goal there. But I could understand the other side to the argument. I thought it was a difficult decision. But once you blow the lead, once you're down by 3, and you got a chance to make it back up and tie it, and then see how the final 7:30 goes, it is, to me, a point that can't be argued why you would go for it there. And I get it. His decision-making wasn't the only reason they lost. They dropped an interception. They dropped what could have been a first down. There were moments in that game where the Lions, they looked like they belonged. They looked like they were the better team. They looked like they were going to kick your ass. But then as the game did go on, it was like they weren't ready for the moment, which makes this so difficult because it was the tale of two halves. The first half was, this is the new Detroit Lions. These are the Detroit Lions that are different than your grandfather's, heck, your father's Lions. But then in the second half, it was like, here are the same old Lions. And that's just, it's gut-wrenching. And I feel so bad for those fans of the Detroit Lions because they're loyal fans. And they've been through it. And I mean really through it. And they got teased yesterday. There's no other way about it. Let's go to Patrick in Michigan next up on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Pat, what do you got for me today?
Hey, Zach. I have no problems with Dan Campbell's decisions, and I think you're being a little harsh on him.
Okay, how so?
Because this is the way he has operated all season, and in probably 75-80% of the times it's worked, and it just didn't happen to work this time.
But do you think it was smart in the moment? Forget about the down 14. 4th and 3, you blew the lead. You were down by 3 points now. Try to get me to understand why it was the right decision there to kick the field goal, to not kick the field goal where you could have tied up the game and go for it when it was a 47, 48-yard field goal. Like, that's the part I just don't understand. That's the one that was most egregious to me.
Well, how do we know that Michael Badgley would have made the field goal?
We don't. And because if he would have missed the field goal, and if he would have missed the field goal, then you have to live with that.
That's almost out of his range.
Well, if he can't make a 47 or a 48-yard field goal, Patrick, then you need a new kicker. And hey, we saw Tyler Bass miss a 44-yard field goal in bad conditions in Buffalo. Missed kicks happen. But I got to give if you still ask me, the risk of not getting the first down 3, or the risk of missing the field goal to tie up the game, I'm taking tying up the game every time. Because who knows? You may get the first down there. I could play it the other way. And then you get another first down. Then you stall and you end up taking a field goal and wasting more time off the clock. I know Badgley hasn't been great, but 47, 48 yards, I got to trust my kicker to make it and live and die with that decision. Let's go to Jason in Milwaukee next up on CBS Sports Radio. Jason, go ahead.
Oh, hi. Yeah, thanks for taking my call. Appreciate it. I think that Campbell should have took the field goal and, went up 17 points. It seemed as if the Lions had full control of this game. I think momentum is very real. I think by, going for it there at 4th and 2 when you had such a good grasp on that game, I think it's you have to take the you have to understand, what's a risk and reward decision here. And, it's very risky because that changes momentum very quickly. And, I mean, you see what happened. You know, one fluke play goes off the Lions' helmet and
Ayuk,
up in the air, and Ayuk catches it, and, you know, all of a sudden it's a completely new ball game.
And also, I love those San Francisco, and thanks for the phone call, Jason. I love the Niners broadcasters. Anytime Ayuk makes a big play, they go, Ayuk, Ayuk, Ayuk is on fire. Oh, it's a tremendous listen when you hear Greg Papa, and I forget who their color analyst is. I think it's Tim Ryan. But when they're singing that stuff together in unison, it makes for a very fun listen on the radio. Let's go to Dan in Wisconsin next up on CBS Sports Radio. Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. That game, actually, with Wade Campbell has coached all year, that game should have been played in Detroit. He gambled away a couple games like I thought the Packer game. He played stupid calls. In that Dallas game, he very well could have been a 1 seed. And it's just like in basketball. You live and die by the 3. Well, you live and die by gambling. And if you take that field goal, goes up 17, you play against the scoreboard. You play against the clock. You're not playing against the 49ers. They score a touchdown, you come back, you get 3. You keep putting the pressure on them. That was just a stupid call.
Yeah, I agree, Dan, and thanks so much. And you're also playing the clock. You're not only playing the 49ers in that situation, you're playing the clock. So you want to increase your chances of outlasting the clock, and at the end, when it goes to all zeros, that you have more points than them. You know, it's a fair point that you bring up. And I know a previous caller said, hey, this is what he's been doing all year. But when you're doing that in the regular season, I'm not saying you get tight and you fold in the postseason, but you got to know what you're playing for. And you had a chance to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl, and I didn't think you made the most intelligent decisions in that game. And it's not right to me to just hear, oh, well, he's been doing it all year, so that's why you should do it in this spot. No. You got to know that to get to the promised land, you sometimes have to change your approach and just do what is the smart decision. Let's go to Justin in Ohio next up on CBS Sports Radio. Justin, go ahead. Good afternoon.
Hey, Zach, this is a wonderful show, and I just want to let it be known. Campbell should have took a play out of Belichick's book because he used kickers the whole time they were in New England. Vinatieri was one of the best kickers, and is the reason why Tom Brady and Bill Belichick is the GOAT to me, honestly. And then on that note, when you're up before halftime and you take the field goal instead of going for the touchdown, like there's a whole touchdown and there's no pressure if you don't make it until after the second quarter. If you go for a touchdown and make it, we really wouldn't have this conversation right now. But field goal kicking is really important to winning championships, and he didn't take it seriously. And that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, Justin, and I'm glad that you brought up the ending of the first half. Notice that the aggressive crowd would have said to go for it there right at the end of the first half to try to get a touchdown. He didn't. He took the field goal. So why wouldn't you do that later on in the game? It's a great point. And, since the caller brought up Belichick, when the Patriots were down 28-3 in the Super Bowl, there was a moment where it was 28-9. They get the ball back. They're going on a long drive where they're taking up basically 6 or 5 minutes off the clock. It's a 12-play, 72-yard drive. They stalled on a 4th and goal. They took the field goal there. A lot of times now people would say, you're down 28-9. I know you're trying to make it a 2-score game there. Just go for it. Just go for it. Get a touchdown. You're down too many points. He took a field goal. And a few years before that, there was an AFC Championship game against Denver where they ended up losing by 2 points. They didn't get the 2-point conversion at the end. He went for it earlier in that fourth quarter instead of kicking the field goal. Imagine if he would have kicked the field goal. Would have been totally different when they were on that final drive. Let's go to Mo in San Diego. Mo, go ahead. You're on the Zach Gelb Show.
Yeah, you were a lot more gracious to Dan than I was, because I was just flipping him. It wasn't 2, it was 3. There was a 4th down in the first half that he went for it and he didn't get it. And this is the thing: when you're playing the NFC Championship game, it's time, it's situation, it's score. When you get new information, you make the adjustment based on the scenario. You don't just say, this is what we do. You make adjustments. You're not at a manufacturing facility making widgets. You're dealing with people. You got a younger team. And anytime you get in the scoring position in an NFC Championship game, you take points because it continues to add up and you're moving the ball. If you take the field goal the first time, if you take a field goal then, you're up 27-7. They kick a field goal, you kick another field goal, you're still up. And now the time has elapsed because it took 8 minutes for them to get the ball to score and you to score. Now it's the same score or better, and there's less time, and the pressure is on San Francisco to catch you. You're up. You're winning. You have the lead. They have to catch you, and you're chasing points like you're behind. I don't get it at all. Yeah, you're 100% correct on the fourth down with the timeouts at the end.
Yeah, third and goal. Yeah,
the third and goal. I mean, he had totally unraveled at that point, but there was so many decisions. You're asking a young receiver, to make that catch. You're asking San Francisco to not defend it. They get a paycheck too. They're really, really good. They're at home, and you don't think that they're going to defend you because I felt good about it. But this ain't feelings. You're not dealing with widgets. You have to look at the time, the situation to score, and when you're winning, every point you score makes it harder and harder for them to catch you. Now they have to play perfect. Now you kick the ball off, you set your defense. There's a reason why they say every possession should end with a kick. When you do a turnover on downs, it's called a turnover on downs. That means you gave them the ball back without scoring, and you want the defense to go out there and make another stop. No, I don't care about Detroit not having been there. I'm not a Lions fan, but I'm a Cowboys fan. It has nothing to do with me. I got no dog in this fight.
Yeah, you can't close a big game either. Let's be real.
I tell you what, though, I bet you McCarthy would have kicked the field. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, when you get in that scenario, forget all the other things that you talk about. You're up.
You're up, and you got to protect the lead there. Mo, thanks for the phone call. All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Come on back. I will make that Ravens point on the other side. 2 people for the Ravens yesterday. They've been great all year, and I was really disappointed in them yesterday. We'll continue to take your calls as well. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Let's toss it to Erica Herskowitz, my radio godmother, standing by with the latest CBS Sports Radio update.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Well, hey there, Zach. Hindsight is 2020. Lions head coach Dan Campbell says he has no regrets when it comes to the decisions he made last night, which resulted in the 2 failed attempts on fourth down in the second half of that loss to the Niners in the NFC Championship game. Campbell, taking heat today, says he understands the scrutiny, but that's just part of the gig, and so the Lions remain one of 4 teams to have still never advanced to the Super Bowl. Meanwhile, now that the Ravens are done following last night's loss to the Chiefs, the Commanders are expected to interview defensive coordinator Mike McDonald today for their vacant head coaching job. And elsewhere on the coaching carousel, reports say the Rams interviewed former Commanders head coach Ron Rivera for their vacant defensive coordinator position. In the NBA, some optimism when it comes to the status of Knicks forward Julius Randle. He's expected to be out several weeks, not months, after suffering a dislocated shoulder Saturday night. Meanwhile, Nets head coach Jacques Vaughn says there's a high likelihood Ben Simmons will play tonight after missing nearly 3 months with back issues. The Nets are home for the Utah Jazz. I'm Erica Herskowitz.
This is Jim Rome. We are talking to the biggest names in all of sports in the jungle weekdays from 12 to 3 Eastern on CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio.
With what C.J. Stroud has done this year, I think C.J. Stroud is now a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Like, entering next year, I don't think there are 5 quarterbacks that you could tell me that you would rather have over C.J. Stroud. Like, this team does not have a lot. You change the coach, you change the quarterback, you got it right there. Will Anderson Jr. lived up to the hype too. It just shows you how great and how clutch and how advanced at such an early age C.J. Stroud is.
Here's Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, it's time to ask the pros, or you, the listener, gets to ask us a question. It's brought to you by our friends at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at CBS Sports Radio or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag #AskThePros. Be listening later in the show when we might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. I'll continue to hit the phones throughout the show. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Let's get to the AFC Championship game, though. We've been heavy on the NFC title game. And, being there in Baltimore, Stu, just pop up the camera on the stream if you don't mind, just so people could see us on YouTube. They're saying that at youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio. But anyway, being at that game, and I've been fortunate enough to be at quite a few AFC Championship games just because of the team that I've rooted for. I didn't think that environment in Baltimore was all that great. I thought it was going to be electric. When I was walking through the parking lot, I drove down for early in the morning, and I probably got there like 11:30, 11:45 a.m. I was walking through that parking lot. It was popping in the parking lot. I thought this was going to be a great crowd. And during the game, I know they didn't have much to cheer about, but during the game, even before, the fans just were not great in that game. And I get it. Like, during the game, there wasn't a lot to be excited about. But before the game, when Mark Andrews is coming back from that injury, and they introduce him, here he is, welcome back, number 89, Mark Andrews. Was it golf claps? And then you introduce Lamar Jackson in his first ever AFC title game? I just couldn't believe, and I know the Baltimore fans are better than that. I just could not believe the lack of buzz before the game. And give credit to Kansas City. And there's a lot we're going to talk about later with Kansas City because their defense was just flat out ridiculous. And I told you guys back in week 3, and I know Spags, I sent a text to Steve Spagnuolo, and I said, your defense is damn good. And they're not going to get enough credit throughout the season. He's like, just where we like it. We're good with not getting the credit. We'll keep on putting in the work. But that defense single-handedly won the Chiefs the AFC Championship. And now they're going back to the Super Bowl up against the 49ers. But anytime you thought maybe Baltimore was going to get back in the game, and Kansas City was basically saying, Baltimore, we're giving you every chance to give your fans some reason to shout, whether it was L'Jarius Sneed making a great play and Zay Flowers fumbling the football, or Lamar Jackson throwing into triple or quadruple coverage. Like, you got to just hit the checkdowns there. But when I walk away from that game, I like to start with the positive, even though some people don't think I'm a positive person. The positive was the Chiefs' defense. But on the other side, Lamar Jackson and Todd Monken, what the heck were you doing? I'm sitting there throughout the game, and I'm looking at what I'm watching right in front of me on the field. And I go, do they know they could run the ball? Do they know they have the number 1 rushing offense in the league? It was perplexing to me and just astonishing that you didn't have design runs for Lamar Jackson. And even if you're telling me, okay, we don't think we could run the ball, there was a few times where they had big pass plays off screen passes. So why didn't you go back more to that? And I go back to this offseason. Remember when Lamar was like saying he wanted to throw for 5,000 or 6,000 passing yards, whatever it was? And we all laughed at that. But that was a message that they were going to throw the ball under Monken. And it is ironic that the last coordinator that they had, Greg Roman, he got fired because they ran the ball too much. So they wanted more of a 2023, 2024 offense where it's more pass heavy. But your quarterback, who has improved as a thrower, and I'm a big Lamar fan, that's why I'm heated about this yesterday, they went away from his biggest strength in the biggest game of the season. And I know that they were down, but that lead wasn't insurmountable. It was 14-7, right? Like, it was right there. And at most, it got to 17-7. So to not have a commitment to the run game, I could crush Monken. And I think people will give Monken a pass because they're going to just go after Lamar. And let me be clear, Lamar was horrible in the game. Horrible. But the play calling was not smart. But with that being said, I can't give the quarterback a pass. Because even if you want to say, oh, well, Zay Flowers got the ball punched out, you're only then walking away with, 14 points in the game? I know they got a field goal late in the game, whatever. That offense has been dominant all throughout the season. That is an offense. Up against the Lions, they blew them out. Up against the 49ers, they blew them out. That's two of three of the other teams that were remaining. They've been dominant on offense and defense all throughout the year. And in the biggest game of the season, I hate to say it because I've been defending Lamar for years. It's not a big enough sample size. I've compared him to Giannis Antetokounmpo when people said he couldn't win a championship. All he does is win MVPs, and then Giannis won a championship. I said, why can't Lamar do that? But to crumble and to fold and have bad body language and not be able to inspire your team. We've seen a lot of great quarterbacks lead comebacks throughout the years in the postseason. I know it's Brady. I know it's Mahomes, two of the greatest quarterbacks ever. But Lamar, he has been a unanimous MVP, and he's about to win his second MVP. And when you look back at his career highlights so far, in less than 10 playoff games, it was leading a comeback against Tennessee in Nashville? And then the second half up against the Texans? That's underwhelming. And fair or not, I think this is the first time it is legitimate to carry on the words and the conversation of, can Lamar win the big game? Can Lamar win a Super Bowl? I still think Lamar is a top 5 quarterback in the league. But if there was ever going to be a year where Kansas City was vulnerable, and there was a year for the Bills or the Ravens to take it, especially with Burrow out for the season too, because Burrow's been the only one that could be a kryptonite to Patrick Mahomes, this was the year. And look at the Chiefs. The Chiefs beat the Bills, and the Chiefs didn't even play their best game. Like, if you would have told me yesterday the Chiefs would have only scored 17 points, I would have said, okay. Worst case, the Ravens would have won the game 20-17. But it is dumbfounding how pretty much the Ravens, for most of that game, the only life they ever had was a touchdown to pull within 7 to make it 14-7. Like, that's the part to me where it just goes, how the heck do you allow that to happen? And I think you could blame two people. The thought process and the poor decision-making and the lack of play calling was weird. How they didn't run the ball. And then Lamar, his decision-making in the game was no good. And let me just correct myself. That touchdown they scored, they made that 7-7. It was right when Kansas City, the Ravens went 3-and-out to open up the game. Then Kansas City scored, and then you had the big Zay Flowers play to answer back, thrown by Lamar. But outside of that touchdown, there was no life. And the game was still there for the taking. It was still right there. But their offense failed them. Their defense did not play great to start the game. But they did shut out Mahomes in the second half. They turned it around after Lamar got strip sacked, fumbled the football. They turned it around. Where he had the turnover on downs and had that 4th down stop. That defense came alive. That defense was there. But the offense wasn't ready to go. And that falls on Lamar, and that also falls on Todd Monken. Both were absolutely horrible throughout the game. Ross Tucker going to join us on the other side. We'll get back to the phones in hour number 2. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Ross Tucker talked to Taylor Swift yesterday. We'll find out what their conversation was all about.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, we continue hour number 2 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. We are going to be joined momentarily by Ross Tucker, the former NFL offensive lineman, played 7 years in the NFL for Washington, Dallas, Buffalo, and New England. Now does a great job. I actually saw Ross yesterday working for Westwood One, and obviously he works for CBS as well. Was on the sideline yesterday in Baltimore for the AFC Championship game for the Kansas City Chiefs up against the Ravens, and we know Kansas City did win the game, and they're advancing to another Super Bowl. So we'll chat with Ross Tucker in just a bit. Guys, let me know when we get him up there, and then we'll bring him on the air. But obviously the big stories from yesterday in the AFC and the NFC Championship games were in the AFC, Monken and Lamar Jackson not showing up. And then you saw the incredible defense by Steve Spagnuolo, who continues to just have big defensive performance after big defensive performance. And then you take a glance at the NFC side. The Lions had an enormous lead. And then from there, they saw it evaporate. And not only did they see it evaporate, you did then also see some questionable decision-making by Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions in the second half of that game. And I understand the Lions have been this incredible story. They've been so fun. That was just, though, one gut-wrenching and painful way for this season to end. Let's just do this, Stu, because I know we only have limited time with Ross Tucker. If we can't figure out the Zoom, just let's get him on the phone, and let's get Ross Tucker up via phone. I don't want to keep on just stalling until we figure out the Zoom problem that's going on our end. So hopefully we'll be able to connect with Ross Tucker in just a bit. But I did see Ross in the press box yesterday, and they had a really good broadcast. Iron Eagle, Jason and Devin McCourty, and Ross Tucker were involved in that Westwood One production of the AFC Championship game that was heard on many of these same stations across the country. So we'll get Ross up momentarily. I see the guys are calling him, and we will find out also what the heck Ross Tucker did talk about yesterday with Taylor Swift, as the Swifties were all across the nation, obviously, that have been invading the football world. And there's been a good crossover. So we have now connected with Ross Tucker, now joining us, of course. Always check out my front page story, and does a great job, CBS and Westwood One. That is Ross Tucker joining us on the Zach Gelb Show. Ross, great to have you on as always. Thanks so much. How are you?
My pleasure, Zach. Doing great. Awesome to see you yesterday. I love it. Why were you there yesterday? Just making sure you're always somewhere in the action?
You know, I'm just a hardworking person. I believe that if you're going to say a lot of things about people, you got to go to the big games, and you got to see how they play on out. So that's why I elected to go there. And I was talking to Mahomes after the game, and he said to me something he's learned this year, right? Because Mahomes is so great. Like, what else is there for him to learn? And it's kind of crazy that he could get better and better with age, which is scary for the rest of the league. But his big takeaway this season was he learned how to manage the game this year when they have such a great defense, and just trust it and find not a way to throw the game away. And that's what you really saw in the second half.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, they didn't score at all in the second half. And with a very different narrative, I feel like, today, if the Ravens had been able to score themselves, right? If Zay Flowers gets in the end zone, if Lamar Jackson doesn't throw, honestly, probably one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen, given the situation. Just absolutely awful. If Mahomes doesn't do that, then, you know, I don't know, man. I think we have a different conversation, but he obviously has learned that he's got a really good defense, and Spags has been fantastic, and they deserve a lot of credit for that, because they totally took the Ravens out of their game.
No, absolutely. And I was shocked. I know Lamar's had some struggles in the postseason, but now this is going to become a bigger and bigger storyline. But the play calling yesterday, I just thought was horrendous by Baltimore. They barely ran the football. I know they were down, but it wasn't like the game was out of reach, and they didn't really do that many design runs with Lamar, or they didn't run the ball with their running backs. I didn't get Monken's approach in that game.
I was a little surprised myself. Yeah, I mean, even when they did run it, it's like gun runs with Justice Hill, as opposed to some of the downhill stuff with the Gus Edwards. Not very many design runs for Lamar Jackson. I was surprised. I was surprised with the tactic that they took. I did think that Spags got the better of Todd Monken yesterday. I think they're both excellent coaches. And I wonder how much of Monken's mindset changed watching the Chiefs totally control the action with those 86 and 75-yard drives for touchdowns to start the game. It's almost like Monken played the rest of the game after that, Zach, thinking, hey, we really need to score a lot of points because we're not going to be able to, and they're doing such a good job, and it's going to be a high-scoring game. That's not what happened at all. I mean, the Ravens defense settled in and really stuffed what they were getting from the Chiefs offense after that. But Monken didn't really adjust. I guess in fairness, the Chiefs held the ball 20-some minutes in the first half, and the Ravens were down by 2 scores. It was clearly not a situation that the Ravens were accustomed to being in, and they didn't handle it very well.
How do you view Lamar Jackson moving forward, Ross Tucker?
Yeah, really good quarterback that does not play his best when they need him to. And we see that when we watch Mahomes and the plays that Mahomes makes to Kelsey and some of the throws he made. And I thought Lamar had some good throws, but, man, it felt like there were a lot of times, a couple to Odell, one to Rashad Bateman. They had man-to-man coverage. And by the way, I didn't think that the Ravens receivers did enough to get open against man-to-man coverage against some of the lesser corners for the Chiefs, not even L'Jarius Sneed. So that's part of the conversation for sure. But a lot of those balls from Lamar Jackson, they weren't even really giving the guys a chance. I mean, they weren't really even having an opportunity to make a play on the ball. And I do think that that's probably one of the reasons why a couple of those where I thought they could call interference, they didn't call interference.
Talking to Ross Tucker right now. What did you say to Taylor Swift after the game? I saw you guys had an interaction on the field.
Yeah, not much. I was, with Westwood One, I'm able to be next to the stage to interview the head coach and the quarterback after the game. And, Taylor Swift is from my hometown, the really small hometown, believe it or not. It's called Wyomissing, Pennsylvania, the hour west of Philly. And so I've met her a couple times, but it was 2007 and 2015.
Wow.
But I know her dad, and I went to her concert in Philly. So I thought, gosh, I got to say something to her. So I think I came up with something pretty good, Zach. I pulled up the picture on my phone of my daughters with her dad from the concert in May in Philly. And I said, "Hi, Taylor. I'm good friends with your dad. I'm Ross Tucker from Wyomissing." And she looks at me and she's like, "Oh yeah, I know you. I know you." Like meaning, like I guess that doesn't happen to her a lot.
Yeah.
Which was funny because I missed a great all-time comeback where I could have been like, "Yeah, I know you. I know you." But I said, "I talked to your dad this week." She said, "Oh, okay." And then she was with Donna and Ed Kelsey.
Awesome.
And I know Ed Kelsey too. So then I just said, "Hey Ed, how are you?" Like I kind of moved on from Taylor. Like what else was I going to say? You know what I mean? Like
it seems like, Ross, if this does go all the way and there's a wedding, I think you should get an invite.
I think that's what I was trying to lock up yesterday. That's why I went right from Taylor. I had to go immediately to the father of the groom and Ed Kelsey, trying to make sure that both sides are okay with me being at the wedding.
Ross Tucker here with us. How would you describe the decision making in the second half by Dan Campbell yesterday in the NFC Championship game?
I did not like it. I would describe it as overly aggressive. I'm not a guy in hindsight. So, first of all, what not enough people are saying, Zach, running the ball with David Montgomery on third down at the end of the game with less than 2 minutes remaining, that was inexcusable.
Yeah, it was horrible.
That's unacceptable coaching error. You cannot run the ball there because then if you get stuffed, and they did, you absolutely have to get the onside kick, which is such a small percentage. Cannot happen. Cannot do it. I mean, you're honestly better off in that situation kicking the field goal on third down than you are running it.
And if you're going to run it, you got to have 2 plays ready to go. You can't use a timeout there.
Correct. So that was awful. I think the field goal or go for a fourth down decisions are a little bit more of an interesting discussion. That's certainly who the Lions have been, and they've had a lot of success with it. And I will say, we saw that with the Ravens and Chiefs yesterday. Teams are going for it in fourth down situations that they never have before, and it certainly feels like it's progress and that they're having success. I would just wonder, are we sure that we're taking into account all the information? Because what I would argue, Zach, is not every fourth down decision is created equal. In other words, let's look at the first one, okay? They're up 14. It's 24-10.
Ross, I'll just tell you right now, I was okay with that first one. It was the second one. When you're down 3, I don't understand bypassing that field goal where you could have tied up the game. Like, I was okay with the first one. The second one, I was not.
Yeah, so the first one bothered me every bit as much as the second one.
Okay.
Because let's play it out, okay? Let's say you get it, which maybe that's 50% of the time. You convert. Well, then you're still not guaranteed a touchdown.
Good point.
There's still a pretty good chance you're going to kick a field goal. And not only that, even if you get a touchdown, it's still, you're up 21, but still a 3-score game. Whereas if you kick the field goal to go back up 17, you make it a 3-score game again. In other words, Zach, the difference between 21 and 17 is not even close to the difference between being up 17 and 14. It's either a 2-score game or a 3-score game. I thought that was really bad, really bad. And then the second one, I agree. I thought in both instances, because of the score, they should kick the field goal. Now, if they were down 6 or there's other scores in the game that it could have been where I'd be like, okay, yeah, I get it. It's fine. But if it's the difference between being up 2 scores and 3 scores, or the difference between tying the game or not, I would have kicked the field goal in those situations and think you should have.
I can tell you right now, Dan Campbell and Lamar Jackson both could use a My Front Page story today. Tell me a little bit more about myfrontpagestory.com.
Well, they absolutely should and could. And although they get enough publicity, you know who doesn't get publicity in life? Their significant others, right? I mean, it's the best Valentine's Day gift I've ever heard of. I know I've talked to you about it before, Zach, but for the new people listening, my buddy started the company. You literally talk to a writer for 10 minutes, tell them how great your significant other is. Way, way better than getting like a gift card to the Olive Garden or whatever you think. Whatever's in your head right now, I'm giving you something totally unique and different. For once, Zach, for once, myfrontpagestory.com. Tell them how great your significant other is. They write this amazing story. It looks like it's on the cover of the newspaper, framed, beautiful pictures of you and them, kids if you have them. And just being able to say, I had a story written about you is incredible. And then make sure, Zach, if you do it this year, make sure you say to them, I just never thank her enough for all the little things she does for the family. Like, they cry every time. It's amazing. And then they have it hanging up in the house forever. So it's the gift that keeps on giving. myfrontpagestory.com, myfrontpagestory.com. Best Valentine's Day gift of all time.
He is the love guru, Ross Tucker. Ross, appreciate the time as always. Thank you. Good to see you yesterday.
Of course, Zach. Great talking with you and great seeing you yesterday.
There you go. Ross Tucker joining us on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Let me squeeze in one more before the break. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Let me go to Jacob in Michigan next up on CBS Sports Radio. Jake, go ahead.
Hey, how's it going? I think that I agree that not taking a field goal and tying the game is a huge mistake. I don't necessarily disagree with the going on fourth when you're up 14. I mean, that's not as much as, tying the game. It brings a whole different game. I mean, it gives you the momentum back or gives you some momentum back instead of thinking over the 49ers.
Yeah, Jacob, it's kind of hard to hear you. I know you're calling from the Motor City, but there was a lot of motors that were driving right past you. I understand Ross's point. You make it a 3-score game. You're playing the clock. You're playing the Niners in that second half. I'm just telling you how I genuinely thought in the moment. In the moment, when it was a 14-point game, I'm okay with, no pun intended here, keeping your foot on the gas. I'm good with that. But once you lose that lead, and you got to just get some little momentum back, and you got to get something back in there, you have to kick the field goal with about 7.5 to play when it's a 47, 48-something yard field goal. And that would have tied up the game. And Ross brings up a good point. Even if you get the first down there, are you going for it in every fourth down? Like, it's not a guarantee that you would have got the ball in the end zone anywhere. All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Here's a topic that we'll do on the other side. You're a Lions fan or a fan of any team. You get to a big game. Would you rather just get blown out from the start, or would you rather just think for a moment, I'm going to win the game, and then you have heartbreak? We'll discuss that when we return. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio, 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio.
Where are all you cockroach Cowboy fans that all year said, Zach, you're not giving this team any credit. Zach, this team is really damn good. Zach, this team's going to make their first NFC title game since 1995. Where are you? You're silent. You're exterminated. The cockroaches are exterminated. And it happens every year.
Here's Zach Gelb.
All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. And we are brought to you today on behalf of AutoZone. Stream the NFL on Westwood One for free, sponsored by AutoZone. All season long, you can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports or on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. AutoZone's free battery testing and charging is available for free at your local AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. Carlos with a K is with us today. And Carlos, you're usually a very positive person. I think you are a...
Since when?
Wait, you're not a negative person.
Oh, you've never watched a game with me. I'm the most superstitious dolt you can think of.
But two things. One, I have watched the game with you. And two, I don't remember which game it was, but you've produced me for Eye on Football. So there's been a lot of games that I've been there. And you are usually on a football Sunday, a jovial kind of guy where you're dancing, you're celebrating. You must have had some winning Sundays this year. Not your personal football team because the Giants stunk, but your fantasy football teams, your touchdowns in terms of the betting world that you maybe had a few dollars on. You know, I've watched enough football with you where Carlos likes to have a good time. Carlos likes to laugh. Carlos likes to dance. And Carlos likes to pretty much be a kid.
True.
And that's something that I really like from you. So, with all this being said, I just want to ask you this. Would you rather have what happened yesterday that happened to the Lions where you're up by 17 and you blow that game in just gut-wrenching fashion? Or would you rather have just got blown out from the start and you see a slow, painful death of 60 minutes where you're just getting dragged up and down the field and just getting annihilated by the 49ers?
Give me the blitzkrieg, and it's not even close.
Really? You take the blowout?
Oh, I do not have the capacity for any more heart-wrenching, just gut-destroying sports moments because I'm also a Cubs fan. So I feel
you
for
won a World
Lions
Series
fan.
recently.
Yeah, but you know what?
Cubs, go.
Yeah, look,
go Cubs, go.
Listen, Janet Jackson, what have you done for me lately? But I remember the 0-3 series against the Marlins, Game 6. Obviously, that was the Bartman ball. And then the Alex Gonzalez bobble right after that. And then Game 7 didn't even have a chance. So I feel for Lions fans. I'd rather get blown out. I'd rather come to the realization like a bullet to the head rather than 1,000 paper cuts because you can get over
like the water treatment.
You can get over it right away. If you know it's over by the first half, all right, let's just put on, an episode of The Office in the background.
You still got to watch the game.
Have a couple of beers. I don't know. Me, I'll check out. I'll mentally check out. I'll become detached. And then once the game is over, all right, we didn't hang with these guys, but overall, it was a good season. When you lose like the Lions did in fashion like that yesterday, people right now are still in disbelief. People are going through every single decision that was made, whether it was offensively or the missed interception and whatever go has be. People are still not coming to grips with the fact that their season is over. And that's why I'd rather just lose right off the gate.
Because it turns into the would-have, could-have, should-have.
Exactly. And
that's what it turns into.
We can't speak in hypotheticals here.
And well, we can. And that's what makes it so difficult.
But it's not healthy.
No, it isn't. But we do a lot of things that aren't healthy. Heck, I've had food with you on a football Sunday. I've seen you make some unhealthy decisions throughout the years. I'll sit there on a football Sunday. I'll go order a salad or I'll order like a grilled chicken sandwich. Carlos is like, get me the fried chicken. And put extra mayonnaise on Chipotle mayo on that.
And that 4 o'clock hour is always hard.
But I do agree with you, because I think the point that you hit the nail on the head, you lose a game and you just know at halftime you have no shot. Like maybe there's one moment where you think you're getting back in the game just because you're delirious enough to kind of trick yourself and kind of make you believe that you could get back into the game. But when you could go into halftime and you know, hey, we just didn't have it today. And hey, we don't have a shot in this game. You start to move on during the game, and you could accept that the other team was just flat out better and was just flat out more dominant than you were and just owned you in the game. But when you go up by 17 at halftime, and also you have a fan base that has never won a Super Bowl, you know, it's kind of similar to Atlanta. I know for Atlanta that happened in the Super Bowl. But when you're up 28-3, like in a Super Bowl, you think the game's over. And I'm not saying Lions fans thought the game was over at halftime, but up 17 at the half, it's like, okay, this is an actual thought. Like this, even if you didn't think you had no shot going into the game, this is now happening. We are here. This is real. This is spectacular, right? And you were on the verge of playing 30 more minutes of football, and you do your job, not even at an exceptional level, just at a decent level. You're playing in a Super Bowl 60 minutes away from holding up that Lombardi trophy. And to have that feeling of being on the seesaw and being all the way up like you're a little kid, and then the fat guy just comes walking over and pounds the seesaw, and then you go flying, whee, and then face planting and having dirt in your eyes and having your hands cut up, your eyes cut up, that's brutal. And I know that there's no really good way to lose. Like, no one wants to lose. No one wants to be a loser, right? You do sports to win. To have that feeling of you're going to get the victory and we're going to dangle the NFC Championship trophy right in front of your face, and then for it to just get snatched away in the second half, where there were many moments where you thought you still had a chance, even with some of the incompetence, that's just brutal. It is absolutely brutal. Because the part where you knew they were losing the game was when it got to 10. When it got to a 10-point lead. Like, I know they got a touchdown at the end of the game. When you burn that timeout, no one thinks you're recovering the onside kick. And then when you don't, you only have 2 timeouts. The game was basically over, and it happened on 4th down. They were able to take one final kneel down because there's only a second left. You snap the ball, and then you fall right down. So it went from being up 17 to then how quickly in the third quarter it just got away. And not only how quickly it just got away, how there were still moments where you could have got back in the game and you could have recouped the momentum and you could have tied up the game, and still the decision makings like Carlos was talking about, Campbell on 4th down, not taking the field goal to tie back up the game. On 3rd and goal, running the football and then burning a timeout, and you can't walk away with only having 2 timeouts there. You needed all 3 timeouts. You know, a dropped interception. Not only that, you also had Reynolds, who dropped what would have been a first down. There's so many moments where you walk away from that game as a Lions fan, and you're in your bed in the middle of the night, and you roll over because you can't sleep, and you're just looking up at the ceiling, and you go, was I dreaming? Did I have a nightmare? Was this something that was just like horribly wrong? Oh no, this was reality. And I would rather just get punched in the face than knocked out like a UFC fighter. If you're going to get knocked out, don't make me go through all the hard work. Just hit me with the kick to the face. Let me see stars. Let me hit the pavement. Let me hit the octagon. Let me fall out. And then eventually you'll wake back up and you know that it's over. But to go the distance where it looks like you're kicking the crap, absolutely kicking the crap out of the 49ers, and then they start hammering away, and not only they start hammering away, then they started dragging you around. It's like, dude, you did all the work, and you didn't get the W. I'd rather just be told you failed from the start, you got no shot, it's over, it's done, and then I could start the funeral and I could start to eulogize my sports season and look back at it in a positive way.
The worst thing you can give a starving fan base is hope.
Yeah. You're not wrong. And Lions fans today, they've not had a lot of hope throughout the years. And now it's, wow, we had the game, and then we snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. And that's demoralizing. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We will take a time out. When we come on back, we'll update you on some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. That is the news brief. I'll let a few people in behind the scenes. We've been having some Zoom issues there. So I have the monitor to my right of Stuart Kovac's Zoom camera. Now, no, I hope people can't see this. But Stu had his Zoom camera basically directed towards his jeans. So I just saw way too much of any Stuart Kovac's that I would ever like to see. I would need to go to HR, honestly. Because there were some shots there of Stuart Kovac's where I'm like, what the heck is going on?
Well, you'll be happy to know the problem has been solved. So at least it's a little good trade-off for you, I guess.
I'm trying to run a serious sports talk radio program, and the next thing you know, I'm just getting shots to my right of Stuart Kovac's jeans. And they were close-up shots, Stu. I was like, what the hell is going on out there? That's what I was just saying over and over again. I go, could we cut Stu's camera, please? That did not go out on the YouTube stream.
No, it was just you the whole time.
Oh, I was going to say.
With a little bit of Carlos.
I was going to say youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio if you want to see a different side of Stu that you've never seen before.
Rated R Zach Gelb Show.
Only fans. Stuart Kovac's about to get an endorsement. All righty, we will take a break. The wheels are falling off. We're like the Lions. We started out strong today. And now it's going to be a slow, painful death. Mike Golick still to come 30 minutes from now. We'll get to a news brief on the other side. Standing by first, though, with the latest CBS Sports Radio update, the great Erica Herskowitz.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
All right, Zach, 12 games highlight the NBA schedule tonight, including a showdown between the top two teams out west. The Thunder tip off against the Timberwolves in Oklahoma City. The two teams look to snap a tie for the number one spot in the conference. Meanwhile, a matchup between a couple of the hottest teams this month will square off when the Cavs meet the Clippers in Cleveland. Those two teams combined to win 22 of their last 25 games. On the injury front, it seems the Knicks have avoided a doomsday scenario when it comes to the status of Julius Randle. He's expected to be out several weeks, not months, after suffering a dislocated shoulder Saturday. And Nets head coach Jacques Vaughn says there's a high likelihood that Ben Simmons will play tonight after missing nearly 3 months with back issues. The Nets are home for the Jazz. The Commanders are scheduled to interview Ravens defensive coordinator Mike McDonald for their vacant head coaching job now that Baltimore's done for the year. And reports say the Rams interviewed former Commanders head coach Ron Rivera for their vacant defensive coordinator position. Hot stove baseball today, the Angels signed outfielder Aaron Hicks to a 1-year contract. I'm Erica Herskowitz.
Hey there, I'm Bart Winkler, host of The Bart Winkler Show here on CBS Sports Radio. Weeknights 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific. I'll be there. You be there too.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
All right, here's the poll question today. You can find it at Zach Gelb at CBS Sports Radio. Were you more disappointed in Lamar Jackson no showing or Dan Campbell's decision-making yesterday? Early returns, once again, you can find it at Zach Gelb at CBS Sports Radio. 63% were more disappointed with Lamar Jackson no showing yesterday than some of the poor decisions that Dan Campbell did make. 63% Lamar Jackson, 37% Dan Campbell. Let's start things off with Dan Campbell on his aggressive decision-making.
I just felt really good about us converting and getting our momentum and not letting them play long ball. They were bleeding the clock out. That's what they do. And I wanted to get the upper hand back, and it's easy hindsight, and I get it, I get that. But I don't regret those decisions, and that's hard. It's hard because, we didn't come through. It wasn't able to work out, but I don't. And I understand the scrutiny I'll get. That's part of the gig, man. But, we just didn't work out.
So let's go through the two decisions. For now, forget about the 3rd and goal where he runs the ball and calls a timeout, because clearly he's talking about the two decisions to go for it. So San Francisco opens up the first half. They're down 17. They hit a field goal, makes it a 14-point game. You get the ball back. After San Francisco took 4 minutes off the clock, you were taking off 4 minutes off the clock as well. It's 4th and 2 at your 28-yard line, at San Francisco's 28-yard line. He elects to go for it. So in that spot, you could say, dumb, go back up 17, and there was 7 minutes left in the 3rd quarter. And I could understand that. I was okay with being 28 yards away from scoring, and you have a 14-point lead to go for it there. I was okay with it. But I understand the other side of the argument. With that being said, once you stub your toe the first time, and then the second time around, you saw San Francisco get a touchdown and make it a 24-24 game, and then your offense is stalling. Because from that stretch, you had the turnover on downs, you had the Jahmyr Gibbs fumble, then you had the 3-and-out you punted, and then San Francisco gets a field goal. They take a 3-point lead. And they took that 3-point lead with 9:52 to go in the 4th quarter. You were starting in a small stretch to move the football, and you stall at the 30-yard line. You got to give your team a chance. Because he said there, you're trying to get the upper hand back. Well, sometimes to get the upper hand back, you don't just get it in one drive, in one play. You got to continue to have a hand on the football. And when you go for it there and you don't get it when you could have tied up the game with 7.5 to play, and your defense has not been great, the defense was turning, you got to just have yourself in a spot where you have a pulse. You make that field goal, you have a pulse. Then it could be a shootout, and it just goes touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. Maybe the game goes into overtime. But what you did was you elected to go for it. You didn't get it. Then they score a touchdown. And then when they go up by 10, the game's over. When they're up by 10 with 3:02 to go, with the experience San Francisco has, I know Kyle Shanahan has been a little bit of a choke artist in his career. In the Super Bowl, 7.5 to play where they were up by 10. 28-3 when he was the OC of the Falcons. He's not choking a 10-point lead with 3:02 to go. So just that idea, I'm trying to get the upper hand back. Well, you allowed them to get the upper hand back based off multiple sequences. So that should have been enough for you to know you don't get the upper hand back just in one grab and one pull. You needed to just kick that field goal there, and that's why I thought the biggest point of the game was when it's 27-24, after they just seen the lead come and go, how he didn't take that field goal there. Here is Jared Goff, the quarterback of the Lions, on just falling short.
I think running through my head this whole postseason and certainly this week was, how rare these opportunities are. I've been so fortunate to have two of them, but a lot of guys go long careers without being in these spots. So I was very aware of how hard it is and didn't take it for granted.
And that's the tough part, that the emotions that they elicit from this performance. Because, I tell Lions fans before the year that your team is going to go to the NFC Championship game, everyone would have signed about it and asked no questions. But when you get there, you never know if you're going to be back. And I know the Lions have a bright future, but things change rather quickly in this league. And when you get spotted a 17-point lead, which you earned, got to take advantage of it. And I know that you were happy to be there. I know Goff said he didn't take anything for granted. He's an experienced player. He's been to a Super Bowl before. But when you are there with the 17-point lead, I don't care if no one thought you should have been there before the start of the season. You have to win that game, and the Lions failed to do so. Here is Kyle Shanahan. He credits his quarterback, Brock Purdy, despite the criticism he gets nationally.
Thought it was the difference between winning and losing. He made some big plays with his legs, getting out of the pocket, moving the chains in some first downs, getting some explosives. He competed his ass off today, and it wasn't easy for any of us, but he kept grinding and was unbelievable there in the second half.
Yeah, I think it's an underrated part with Brock Purdy is his mobility. And all these great quarterbacks now, you got to have some mobility. The days of being a pocket passing statue quarterback, they don't exist anymore. Where that doesn't mean you have to run, but the way he escaped and then completed that pass to use check was just phenomenal. And then obviously had a few runs where he started going down the field and made some big plays. Brock Purdy in the game yesterday. Here is Christian McCaffrey, run CMC, who if you had the Niners winning the Super Bowl, don't you got to kind of go McCaffrey winning the Super Bowl MVP? I know that the Purdy people, they won't like that comment. They think I'm dissing their quarterback. I said this the entire year. Christian McCaffrey, to me, is the most valuable offensive weapon for the San Francisco 49ers. After that, it's Debo. After that, it's Trent Williams. Then I'll give you Brock Purdy. That's not a knock on Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's a good quarterback. But it just shows you how great this team is. And I don't care how you win, just as long as you win. And that's what I said to Niners fans all year. Like, why should you care if someone gets called a game manager? Well, why should you care if someone doubts your quarterback? Just keep on winning. You win the Lombardi Trophy. You give the middle finger to everyone for the next 12 months. Here is Christian McCaffrey saying Brock Purdy needs more credit.
I don't have, enough good things to say about Brock. All he's done since he's been here is play at an elite level, and everything starts with him. And I'm just we're lucky he's our quarterback. He takes a lot of heat for absolutely no reason. All he's done is been a great leader, been a great player, and so proud of him and pumped up that I get another one with him this year.
And all this guy has done is win since he's got into the league. So I understand that locker room being outspoken about their quarterback. And you know what? It actually could be the best thing for them. Because when you are that much of a machine and everyone knows it's Super Bowl or bust for the 49ers, it's tough to find motivation. It's tough to find something that rallies everyone together. But that team believes in Brock Purdy. Those players believe in Brock Purdy. That locker room believes in Brock Purdy. And that's all that matters. And I'm not saying they need the extra motivation, but to be able to provide that to a team that knows it's Super Bowl or bust, and you could kind of crap on all the haters when you go to a Super Bowl now and you're 60 minutes away from a championship, I do think there is some importance to that. I got a chance yesterday after the AFC Championship game to ask Patrick Mahomes a question. And I know how much we talk about game manager with Brock Purdy. I thought it was very compelling that Patrick Mahomes talked about how much he's learned to manage the game this year. Here you go.
Patrick, I know how much respect you have for Lamar and what his unit's been able to do. Your defense has been pretty special all throughout the season. To see what they did today, just how do you kind of put it into words?
Yeah, it's special because that's a great team and a great quarterback. And Spags, it seems like when the games get bigger, when the challenges get higher, he performs even better. The guys execute the game plan well. They got timely turnovers that played down at the goal line, punching the ball out. I think it was Snead and recovering it. That was a timely turnover, obviously. And whenever they're rolling like that, I have to kind of manage my game. That's stuff that I've learned throughout the season is even if we're not having the success that I want to have, the defense is rolling and getting stops. Let's just take the safe choice, get the ball out of my hand, don't turn the ball over, and let's go win a football game.
Doesn't matter if it's pretty this time of the year. You just got to win. That's all you have to do. As Al Davis once said, just win, baby. You just got to win the game. It doesn't matter if you win 13-3. It doesn't matter if you win 45-41, just as long as you win. And Mahomes understood the assignment yesterday. Don't get risky. Don't turn over the football. Don't make mistakes. You protect the football. You protect field position. They didn't score a single point in the second half. They still won the game because their defense, led by Steve Spagnuolo, was that great. Jackson had turnovers. Lamar didn't. And that was a big part in this game, too. Mahomes managed the game. And I've seen a lot of playoff performances where your quarterback doesn't play the best. But the quarterback that doesn't make the mistakes 9 times out of 10 usually wins in these postseason games. Here is Travis Kelce on passing Jerry Rice for most receptions in the postseason ever.
Shout out to Jerry Rice, baby. The Chiefs are still the Chiefs, and believe it. You got to fight for your right to fight! We're going to Las Vegas, Nevada, to go get us another one.
He's actually a great interview, especially after the game. Like, we all know what he does with New Heights, but a lot of times those trophy presentations could get very boring, and players say nothing. At least he plays the role that he's a WWE character in Travis Kelce. And now you get the Chiefs and the 49ers going up in the big game once again, coming up 2 Sundays from now. Once again, we thank our friends at CBS for that audio. Here is Lamar Jackson, his thoughts right after a tough loss with their season is now over.
I'm not frustrated at all. I'm angry about, losing. We're a game away from the Super Bowl. We've been waiting all this time, all these moments for an opportunity like this, and we fell short. But I feel like our team we're gonna build. This offseason we're gonna get right, get better, grind, and try to be in this position again, but on the other side of victory.
All right, I'll just roll my eyes with him saying that he's not frustrated, because he was clearly frustrated throughout the game. You're not human if you aren't frustrated when your offense did nothing. Todd Monken had a bad game. Lamar Jackson had a bad game. So clearly Lamar Jackson was frustrated yesterday, regardless of what he said. But those words are empty now. And I've been one of the bigger Lamar defenders there could be. There is now a big enough sample size. And you had the number 1 overall seed. You were the best team in football. You had the Chiefs in your building. You lose a high-scoring affair. All right, it happens. It sucks. But to basically only put up 1 touchdown in the entirety of the game, the criticism that Lamar's received for years that used to be unfair, it's now valid. Great regular season quarterback, but come postseason time, he's MIA. Todd Monken was MIA yesterday. Lamar Jackson was MIA yesterday. And it's a really, really bad look for the Baltimore Ravens, because this was the year. This was the year for the Bills. This was the year for the Ravens. It was right there for the taking. The Chiefs were vulnerable. And this is what happens when you get a little life and you leave a little hope for the Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Travis Kelce. They find a way to get it done because they know how to win. They know how to win a championship. Right now, Lamar Jackson, just quite frankly, doesn't look like a quarterback that knows how to win a Super Bowl. He knows how to win regular season games. He knows how to win MVPs. But right now, he just doesn't look like he knows how to win a Super Bowl. And that's what's so frustrating, is that team had no pulse. And that team in their own building on offense, outside of the big play to Zay Flowers to get a touchdown, had no life in that game. It was an insipid offense yesterday. All righty, Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. That's a news brief. We will take a timeout. We will come on back. Mike Golick has been entertaining you for many years now, does a great job with DraftKings. He will join us, and we'll get his opinions on the AFC and NFC Championship games. We'll also get an early thought on the Super Bowl. Will it be Kansas City again, or will Kyle Shanahan finally get a Super Bowl ring? And also, you can check out our poll question at Zach Gelb at CBS Sports Radio. Who are you more disappointed in yesterday? Lamar Jackson's no-show or Dan Campbell's decision-making? Right now, 60% say Lamar Jackson, 40% say Dan Campbell. Mike Golick joins us next. Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
All righty, way to go. Hour number 3 of our radio program. That's right. It is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. Very busy day, obviously, coming off both conference championship games with the Baltimore Ravens. It's just the same old, same old. You could have a great regular season, but then come playoff time, the offense does not perform to the level that they're capable of. Todd Monken and Lamar Jackson clearly had very poor performances yesterday. And then for Kansas City, it was not pretty in the second half. Their offense was basically begging the Baltimore Ravens to get back in the game, but that defense play in and play out. They just kept on making enormous plays in the game, and they made Lamar Jackson look the farthest thing from the MVP. We know that the MVP is a regular season award, so don't tell me that Dan Campbell lost Coach of the Year yesterday or Lamar Jackson lost the MVP yesterday. What goes on in the postseason is irrelevant for those regular season awards, but those are the two biggest storylines, I thought, from Conference Championship Sunday. It was the Ravens' offense with Lamar not being ready, and then on the other side, it was the decision-making by Dan Campbell, which was just a absolutely brutal, and I mean brutal, second-half performance by the Detroit Lions. And we could talk about the decision-making until we are blue in the face. When you take a look back at being up by 14 and not taking the field goal, I was okay with that. A lot of other people will disagree. But then the second go-around, when you have blown the lead and now you are down by 3, it is just inconceivable to me how you didn't elect to take the field goal to tie up that game. And you got to tie up that game in that spot. And they failed to do that. And from there, the Niners get a touchdown. They go up by 10. And then it was turn out the lights. The party is over. So the decision-making by Dan Campbell was really bad. And then on the other side, when you look at the Baltimore Ravens, this is the first time I think it's valid, and there's enough of a sample size, the shortcomings in the postseason, where you can now get on him because you could use other excuses in the past. They were on the road. It's not enough sample size. When you were at home and you played basically one good half in two playoff games, that's just inexcusable. It's inexcusable, especially when you are the MVP of the league and this Kansas City team was being viewed as a vulnerable football team this year. And Kansas City, I was in the locker room afterwards. They even talked about it. They didn't give up hope. But a month ago, this was not likely that they were going to go to the Super Bowl. But here you are. Kansas City is back in that spot. Now joining us, of course, is a longtime talk show host. Now does a great job for DraftKings. And that is Mike Golick, kind enough to join us right here on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Mike, appreciate the time. Thanks so much for giving us a few minutes. How are you?
I'm doing well. Bittersweet, I guess, because we only have one football game left, and then we're in the off season, and that's like a sorrowful time for everybody.
Yeah, so you've been in the media game for a long time. You know how much of a zoo Super Bowl week can be. I can't even imagine how many fools basically just act like fools on opening night, what it's going to be like, especially when you have the Taylor Swift factor in this.
Man, now luckily she's not going to be around until the game, so you won't have to deal with any of that. And we're used to dealing with Kansas City. They've been there before. Certainly San Francisco was there a few years ago, but this is the kind of the matchup. Though I did pick Baltimore. I thought they were going to win that game, and boy, what a game that was for the Kansas City defense. Really, the Baltimore defense as well. But yeah, Super Bowl week is always crazy. The week now too. The bowl before is turning into a crazy week as well. But looking forward to it. Then sure, why not be in Vegas? So any money I made this year, I'll blow at the blackjack table.
Yeah, Dan Campbell probably hits on 19, I would say, right? When he's at the blackjack table.
How about it?
I'll get back to Kansas City, but since I just made the joke about Campbell, where did you stand with this decision-making yesterday, especially in the second half?
There's 3 plays. I know the people that are talking the most about it would be the 2 4th down plays. And those weren't the ones that I thought were the egregious mistake. Now, I could have gone either way. I know Dan is a go for it on 4th down, 34% of the time, way more than anybody else in the NFL. 18 times he's made it on 4th and 3 or less. And he's consistent. We sit there and talk about blackjack table. If the dealer's showing 7 or higher and I have 16, I'm hitting every single time. I'm consistently going to do that. Now, for Dan and these situations, I think they can be different. The first one in the third quarter, about 7 minutes ago in the third quarter, why I could have seen kicking the field goal would have been a shorter field goal, I think about 45 yards or so. It would have put them up 3 scores. That's what I looked at, because they were up 2 scores, 24-10, could have gone 27-10 and been up 3 scores, but they didn't. Okay. And a drop pass, I believe, on that one as well. Fourth quarter, Now you're down 3. Would have been a 55-yarder, would have been a longer one. Badgley only kicked in 4 games this year, and he hadn't made an outside field goal past 40 yards, or he was 1 for 3 in the last, I think, year and a half on outdoor field goals over 40. And that would have been a 55-yarder, but that would have tied it up. So I understand, and more importantly, the players get it as well. The egregious one to me, and the one I can't justify, is when you're at the 2-yard line with a little over a minute to go. You have all 3 of your timeouts. You're trying the 3 timeouts. The currency that holds for you is greater than just about anything, because what it does, if you score, it effectively lets you kick off into the end zone. You don't have to onside kick it, because nobody recovers an onside kick anymore. The odds are ridiculously against you. So why they ran a ball with about a minute to go on the 2-yard line, I have no idea. You can't justify. Any former player, analyst, anybody that tries to justify it to me, I can't go with it. You pass the ball, get in the end zone that way. That way you have your 3 timeouts left. You can kick the ball off. Now you can use your timeouts, stop them on defense, and get one more chance for a field goal to tie. That, to me, was the most egregious one. That's a Ben Johnson call, but Dan Campbell's the head coach. He can get in the headphones of Ben and say, listen, pass the ball. Do not run it. We do not want to waste a timeout if we don't make it, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, especially when you take that timeout. Like, I don't think they should have ran the ball there anyway, but if you do, you got to have your next play ready to go, because once you call that timeout, as you just saw, like, even if Detroit makes the stop with the way that the clock was with about a minute left, you basically ended the game there once you didn't recover the onside kick.
Then the problem with running a play and having a next one ready to go is, me as a former defensive player, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen there. We are going to lay on you, and we're going to be really slow getting up. And it's a mosh pit down there by the goal line. So there's a lot of bodies involved. So it's going to take a long time, if you're a defensive player, to get up out of that pile. You may slip and fall back on the pile. You try not to go too long where the refs are going to stop the clock, but they're going to bleed the clock. I just do not see a scenario of running that ball. And I've heard people say, well, it was there. If they had one block here, then it was there. Well, you know what it wasn't? It wasn't there. If I had 2 more numbers right on the Powerball, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. But it didn't happen. So the guy didn't get the block, and you didn't get in, and you wasted that timeout.
Mike Golick here with us. Great analogies all around. We go from blackjack, we go to the Powerball. It's all setting up for Mike and I to lose a lot of money in Vegas coming up in 2 weeks. Also with Detroit, the thing that bugs me today is people go, Dan Campbell's just an aggressive coach. And I like aggressiveness. I don't think it's all you have to be passive. Like, it takes a special person to turn around, an aggressive person to turn around this Lions franchise. But when you're 30 minutes away from a Super Bowl, I'm not saying you get passive, but you just got to be smart. And I just thought his decision-making at times yesterday was just too stupid.
So I think analytics has become the F word of sports, right? And we say analytics. Analytics have been around forever. When I was playing, that was our game plan. Analytics told me on 2nd and 7+, they run X amount of plays out of this formation. We had analytics. We need to throw out the word analytics and say information. Mm-hmm. So the information in this situation may say to go for it, but I see baseball managers do this as well. There are analytics, again, information in baseball, but there's still a gut. Right? You don't, just because it says it doesn't mean you have to do it, because situations are different in every single game, and in every game, depending on the time of game, 3rd quarter, 4th quarter, 1st quarter, whatever. So that's why I could have seen kicking the field goal. It doesn't mean you're not aggressive. This isn't winning points for machoism, and that's not what Dan Campbell's trying to do. He is just trying to say, we're going to stay aggressive and always try and get the 7, not the 3. And the most important thing, Zach, is the fact that the players understand that. The players aren't surprised by that. The players in Kansas City aren't surprised on a 3rd and 9 when you would maybe run the ball, everybody else would, to make the other team burn a timeout, that Andy Reid's going to throw a pass to get a 1st down, which is what he did. So players aren't surprised, and that's the most important thing. But I still think there can be decisions that are made. It doesn't mean, oh, he lost his aggressiveness. No. No, he's playing this situation. This situation in the third quarter would have got them up 3 scores if you kicked the field goal. This situation in the fourth quarter would have tied the ball game for them if he kicked the field goal. So it's just information gathering, and then what do you do with that information?
But you know what? Here's the thing. I know that we usually say, there's analytics, and I'm with you. You got to trust your gut more so than the numbers. I think Campbell's gut, though, also told him to go for it in those spots.
Oh, I'm sure it did. I mean, that and maybe he'll learn from it. Maybe he won't. He says he doesn't regret it, and that's cool because, listen, one of those fourth downs, it hit the player right in the hands.
Yeah.
You got to make the catch, okay? The other fourth down was somewhat ugly on a rollout, and the ball landed in space. So one could have worked, but that's the odds you're playing. So he's going to stay aggressive, but I do think there is room for interpretation given different situations during different times of the game.
I've never really seen a player, Mike Golick, like Brock Purdy, who all the guy does is win, and I've been guilty of this. I've called him a game manager, and I don't mean that in a negative way. He did a little bit more, obviously, than game managing yesterday, so I got to give him his credit like that. But it's weird that he's turned into a very polarizing player, and I think it's actually the best thing for the Niners because when it's Super Bowl or bust, it's tough to find some rallying points. Every player in that locker room, they believe in him, and they're trying to prove the entire world wrong about Brock Purdy.
It's amazing. My son and I on our show on DraftKings had Richard Sherman on the show, and Richard Sherman said it right. He said, everybody loves an underdog story except for Brock Purdy. This guy's Mr. Irrelevant. He's come in and plays well, and it's like some people don't want to give him his due. I mean, remember Kurt Warner? What a great – They made a movie called The Underdog. I mean, my God. You almost couldn't have been more of an underdog than Kurt. Here's Mr. Irrelevant, in a game, playing against, first round quarterbacks and performing well. Now, granted, he's got a good cast around him, but still, I covered him when I was calling college games when he was at Iowa State, and always from the neck up made smart decisions. Now, for Westwood One, I called the game against Green Bay a couple of weeks ago when he didn't play well. And was that rust? I don't know. Remember, he had 19 days off because he didn't play in week 18. So he was off in that game, the entire game. And in this game, he was off in the first half, 7 of 15 for 93 yards, under 50%. But he made some of the throws when he had to. So how do you not give this guy credit? And talk about a scary moment. How about the championship game last year when he gets his arm hit against the Eagles and he's knocked out of the game? This year, the one interception he throws, Josh Pascal from Detroit, hits him right in the hand. And how many times have we seen quarterbacks get a busted hand or a broken thumb in a situation like that? I thought, oh my God, it's going to happen again. Luckily for them, for San Francisco, all it was an interception. But yeah, he deserves credit. Now, does he have talent around him? Yes. But name me a team where you don't have talent around you. I mean, that's just good team building by John Lynch and that management group with the 49ers. So this guy deserves a ton of credit. And his 2 runs, we thought Lamar was going to be the guy that you would have to stop running the ball. It happened to be 2 big runs by Brock Purdy that helped seal the game for him.
And I find it funny. Everyone freaks out about the game management conversation with Brock Purdy, but I was talking to Mahomes after the game yesterday, and I just asked him about his defense, and he goes, I learned this year when the defense is rolling, I just got to manage the game and not make turnovers. Right. So it's funny. The best quarterback right now that's playing on the planet could say he was a game manager yesterday. Nobody cares, but with Brock Purdy, it's all, is he a game manager or is he a franchise quarterback?
You don't have to be Mahomes the magician when your defense is playing like that. Right now, would you still like to be up 3 touchdowns?
Absolutely.
Certainly you would. But, I mean, think about it. 17-7 at half. That game in the second half, the Chiefs offense got shut out. It was 3-0 Baltimore in the second half. That's how well the defenses were playing in that game. So Mahomes is right. When your defense is dealing, I mean, things are going to make you look even better. We'll go back to Tom Brady winning the Super Bowl in Tampa Bay. They don't even reach the Super Bowl if their defense isn't incredible during the earlier rounds of the playoffs to get them to the Super Bowl. Even the early years of Tom Brady winning Super Bowls, that was more the defense than the offense. But it's always the quarterback that we count the rings with, which I think is somewhat ridiculous to say, well, how many rings does he have? We don't ask that about Jerry Rice, or the greatest at other positions. It's always the quarterback.
Well, going off that conversation with the quarterback, what does Lamar need to change? What do the Ravens need to change so when they could actually win a Super Bowl? Because this one, this is the one where I have to turn on Lamar, and I've been a big Lamar supporter. You're at home, right? The Chiefs are vulnerable. They're in your building, and you've had 2 playoff games in your building in this run, and you only played one good half of football.
So I put some of this because it's rarely one person that causes anything. Now, Lamar certainly didn't play like the MVP he's going to win. And I heard you talking before, and you're right. It's a regular season award. He deserves the award and doesn't go into the postseason. So, don't start saying, he doesn't deserve the award. Yes, he does for the regular season. But there's more people here to blame for mistakes. You had defensively, you had veterans and Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith and Jadeveon Clowney with dumb 15-yard continued drive penalties for Kansas City. You had Zay Flowers. Do you want to say he's a rookie so you give him a pass? Getting up on a big catch, spinning the ball right next to a guy and doing the crab right next to him.
Yeah.
You're going to get called. Now, do I think you should be able to do that stuff? Hell yes. It's professional football.
But they're the rules.
Go ahead. But you're not allowed. And that's the rule, so you have to follow the rules. Don't do that. And it's a cardinal sin, not on the goal line, on a goal line play, but where he caught that ball. Do not reach the ball out for the goal line unless it's 4th down and you have to get in. And he did, and L'Jarius Sneed punched it out. It was a great job. But I'll even go to the coaching staff. Todd Monken has been phenomenal for Lamar Jackson this
They got
year.
away from their identity, though.
How? You're the number 1 rushing team in the NFL. That helps Lamar. Not only is he part of that, but it helps him in play action as well. You run Justice Hill and Gus Edwards 3 times each. And this game isn't a blowout. It's not like you have to leave your – look at San Francisco. They were down 17, and the mix of pass and run was still only a difference of 2. So they stuck to their game plan even down that much. Baltimore wasn't down that much. How do you go away from the run? That was your identity all year long. That, to me, was a monster mistake by Baltimore.
It was almost as if it was arrogance from Baltimore, where they were trying to win a specific way, but not the bright way. And it doesn't matter how pretty it looks or what people say. As long as you win, that's all I care about this time of the year.
No, that's exactly right. I don't know what the reasoning was. I find it hard to believe, coaches who have been around for a while are going to have that attitude of, we're going to try, we'll show you, we don't have to even do it the best way we've been doing it to beat you. I highly doubt they're thinking that, but I'd love to know the thought process, because Gus Edwards in his 3 carries was averaging over 6 yards a carry. I mean, how do you not keep going with that? Even if you get stuffed, then you bust one. You go for 2 yards. 2 yards, then you get 6, then you get 3, then you get 1, then you get 15, then you bust one here and there. I am amazed that they gave up. Lamar held on to the ball too long in the pocket. Now, give Kansas City credit. Spagnuolo had a lot of pressure and blitz looks on Lamar, and the third part of being a running back failed for Baltimore. There's running the ball, there's catching a pass, and there's picking up a blitz. And they did not do a good job of picking up the blitz with their blocking at all. Give Kansas City credit for that. So Lamar was hanging on the ball for a long time in the pocket, and kudos to Kansas City in their coverage, but he would start running a little late in some of these and wasn't getting the yards he's used to getting. It was not a great game for Lamar. It was not a great game for some of the experienced defensive players, and I don't think it was a great game for the offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, either.
Last thing I'll ask you, Mike Golick, you've seen a lot of quarterbacks. You've been doing this for a long time. How far are you willing to go with what you've already seen out of Lamar Jackson? Out of Patrick Mahomes.
Well, I mean, there are those that are saying he's the GOAT already. I mean, come on. We got to get a little bit of longevity to this, okay? I mean, we have to. Now, what he's done in the beginning of his career, he's already in the Hall of Fame. I call the games at Westwood One in the Super Bowl. I'll be working the sideline with Laura Oakman, and in the booth will be Kevin Harlan and Kurt Warner. And after last year's Super Bowl, we were with Kansas City and Philly. We were riding back after the game, and we were talking with Kurt about it because, this is Kurt talking about quarterbacks in the Hall of Fame. And he said, Pat Mahomes has already surpassed what I ever did. He's a Hall of Famer, and this was last year he said it, right now. So he's just adding to it right now. So now it's going for where does he end up all time? I'm not going as far as he's the greatest quarterback of all time at this point. I mean, that to me is knee-jerk reaction, living in the moment right now. Let's give some credit to quarterbacks who have played a long time, has some longevity to their career and success throughout it. He's had a ton of success early in his career, and now, 5-6 years into his career has been incredible. And he is a Hall of Famer right now, without question. But I'm gonna pull the reins a little bit on the greatest of all time. Now, he's putting himself in conversations with that. But does anybody who sits there and say he's the greatest quarterback of all time right now, I'm going to definitely push back on that one a bit.
And I agree. But the question is then, where is he right now? Like, is he already top 5 to you?
We sit here and we do this. We forget about the Johnny Unitas's of the world. That's a thing, especially the younger generation. They'd have to Google some of these people. Do we just throw all them out? Where's Dan Marino still in this? Because he only went to one Super Bowl and never won one. It's such an opinionated, subjective thing on what you're looking for in a quarterback. Is he one of the most athletic quarterbacks and magical quarterbacks with how he can get rid of a ball we've ever seen? Without a doubt. Like Steph Curry will go down, not as the greatest NBA player of all time, but the greatest shooter of all time. And he'll push up the ranks as far as greatest NBA player, but he's not going to be that, but he's going to be the greatest shooter. So Mahomes may get to greatest quarterback of all time, but right now he's probably one of the greatest, if not greatest, playmaker out of that position. I'm so bad at where you rank because I think we leave out quarterbacks from decades and decades ago that people just don't know how to rank them with the quarterback of today because they're not the athletes of today.
He is Mike Golick. Make sure you check him out, DraftKings analyst. And also, I'd be remiss if I don't say check out the Gridiron Greats. I know Mike does some great work with them, and they have a great Super Bowl party coming up that's for a great cause. Gridiron Greats, and then also on behalf of Southern Recipes and the fine folks with pork rinds, Mark Singleton, our buddy with Rudolph Foods. So, Mike, we'll see you out in Vegas. Appreciate it.
Sounds good. I'll be at the blackjack table.
You got it. There he is, Mike Golick, joining us on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. I know we're overdue for a break. Let's take one. We'll come on back after these short messages.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio.
Baker today deserves his flowers. He deserves his respect. And I'm not telling you Baker is this great elite quarterback, but I don't think Baker Mayfield is this bum. That was my part of the final year in Cleveland. Didn't mean he was going to fall off a cliff. And everyone wrote off the Bucs before the start of the season because they didn't have Tom Brady anymore. But Tampa Bay, they have everything right there for the taking.
Here's Zach Gelb.
I just got a very interesting tweet. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Adam Thompson, 09 on Twitter, tweets me. He goes, Lamar Jackson is James Harden. So I guess I kind of understand the analogy. Great regular season player, but horrible postseason player. The only thing is, I'm not ready to go there. Like, I understand where it's going to be no matter what James Harden does in the regular season, it's irrelevant until he wins an NBA championship. And James Harden is going to the Hall of Fame. But I do think individually, in a short sample size, Lamar has been better than James Harden in the regular season. Like, James Harden has MVP. Lamar Jackson's now going to have 2 MVPs. And you could still argue he still has another, 10 years remaining in his career, if he stays healthy. But that's the thing that's going to follow Lamar after this just crushing and terrible performance in the AFC Championship game. No one is going to believe Lamar is going to win a Super Bowl until he does now. And I know you could say it shouldn't all fall on the quarterback, and Mike Golick is right, where it's not all on the quarterback. But you know it and I know it. Each and every Monday when we walk into the studio, the head coach or the quarterback are the two biggest talking points. And Harbaugh, he kind of got a pass yesterday. He shouldn't, because his team in his own building had no life. Absolutely no life in that game. But not only that, it is the coaching side of it, because of how bad the offense was, and Harbaugh's more of an overseer. Monken was just brutal in his approach. To barely run the ball, to not only barely run the ball, but not even use the short passing game and more screens. But you know this and I know this. 9 times out of 10, the quarterback usually takes the brunt of the criticism. And when you are the quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens, you are now about to win 2 MVPs, and let's just be real about it. You no-show in the AFC Championship game. And like we were talking about earlier with the Lions, right? Would you rather just get blown out from the start, or would you rather have that lead and then just not find a way to lose? Not find the way to win? That's one thing. But in the case of Lamar, they didn't really ever have a shot, but they were still in the game. Like, there was never a moment in that game where you were like, okay, I believe the Ravens are coming back. But you looked up at the scoreboard, and it was 17-7. You just score one touchdown there, that building starts to get jumping, and Kansas City, and we all know Mahomes could do it, but Kansas City did nothing in that second half. So who are you more disappointed in? Lamar Jackson no showing yesterday, or Dan Campbell's decision-making? 62.8% say Lamar Jackson compared to 37.2% Dan Campbell. You could chime in on that poll question at Zach Gelb, at CBS Sports Radio. I'm disappointed in both, but I'm more disappointed in Lamar, because even though we discuss how it's the most demoralizing way to lose when you're up big and then you can't get the job done, at least the Lions, even though Dan Campbell made some dumb decisions in the second half, at least, now it's going to work the reverse way for the poll question, at least they were in it. At least they showed up for a half. At least they were there for 30 minutes. The Ravens were there for one drive where they got a touchdown that tied up the game at 7. Outside of that, they weren't there on Sunday in the AFC Championship game. All righty, we'll come on back. We'll end the show out in style with a little onside, offside. Stu's got some questions for me. I'll give him some answers to wrap up the show. Update time first, though. Let's go to Erica Herskowitz.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
All right, Zach, we've seen this one before. Super Bowl 58, a rematch of Super Bowl 54. The Chiefs and Niners set to meet in Vegas on February 11th. And Kansas City will be officially without defensive end Charles Omenihu. He was confirming today on X that he suffered a torn ACL during yesterday's AFC title win. Meanwhile, Chiefs head coach Andy Reid says wide receiver Kadarius Toney will practice this week. That news comes just a day after Toney took to Instagram Live to go on an expletive-laden rant about his injury status, saying he's not hurt and loosely accusing the Chiefs of fabricating his injuries over the course of the year. The Chiefs say Toney did not play yesterday for personal reasons. No sense in crying over spilled milk. The decisions he made last night, he's sticking to them. Lions head coach Dan Campbell says he has no regrets, especially with the results in the 2 failed attempts on the 4th down in the second half of that loss to the Niners in the NFC Championship game. Campbell, taking the heat today, said he's understanding of the scrutiny, but that's just part of the gig. Meanwhile, now that the Ravens are done following last night's loss to the Chiefs, the Commanders interviewed defensive coordinator Mike McDonald for their vacant head coaching job today. I'm Erica Herskowitz.
You're listening to CBS Sports Radio, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all live, all the time.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Factory Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All right, it's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day, and it's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Jake in Rochester says, Zach, do you have an early gambling play in the Super Bowl? I do. You could submit a question by tweeting at CBS Sports Radio or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag AskThePros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. So I gave you yesterday a plus 350, an anytime touchdown parlay of Brandon Ayuk and Jahmyr Gibbs. That is hit. I'm going back to the well for the Super Bowl. I'm going to do an anytime touchdown parlay. You know Kelsey scoring a touchdown. And I'm then going to have another tight end, George Kittle, who won me some money earlier in this postseason. I'm going to have him getting an anytime touchdown as well. So that's going to be a same-game parlay. Kelsey and Kittle both to score a touchdown in the Super Bowl. It's at plus 411. I threw $100 down in it this morning, so that would pay out $511.98. I'm going Kelsey and Kittle at plus 411. All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Stu's got some questions for me. I'll try to give you some answers. We call this segment Onside Offside. We do it every Monday and Friday right here on CBS Sports Radio.
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb on CBS Sports Radio.
All righty, Stu. What do we got cooking today, pal?
All right, we'll stick with the Super Bowl matchup for the first question. So following yesterday's games, the 49ers opened up as a 2.5-point favorite over the Chiefs in Super Bowl 58. And since then, the line has dropped a little bit. San Francisco currently favored by 1.
That's crazy. Overnight, a 1.5.
Whole 1.5, yeah. Oh, onside, offsides, you think the 49ers should be the favorites over the Chiefs?
So this is not me saying that I believe the 49ers are going to win the game. I do lean one way or another. But when you objectively look at making a spread, the 49ers have been the better team throughout the season than the Kansas City Chiefs are. So I say on sides, I understand why the 49ers are the favorite, and they should be the favorite in this one. That doesn't mean I'm going to bet them. That does not mean I think that they are going to win the game. But when I was sitting there yesterday and I found out, right, the Lions lose, they choke, 49ers win, Kansas City does beat the Baltimore Ravens. Thinking about the spread, I go, this could go either way. Niners have been better team throughout the season, so I thought they'd be a few-point favorite, and that's what they ended up being. So the 49ers should be the favorite of the Chiefs. I will go onside on that one.
All right, it was a very bad 10-minute span for Zay Flowers yesterday in the second half, in which ended with a fumble through the end zone and a lacerated finger from slamming his hand on the bench. But right before that, he got flagged for a 15-yard penalty for taunting L'Jarius Sneed after a long catch. Onside, offsides, the NFL taunting rules should be eliminated for the playoffs.
This is offside. I'm not against celebrating. I'm not against having fun on a football field. But you can't stand directly over an opponent. You just can't. There has to be some rules, because if you don't have any taunting, then what happens if you start pushing and shoving another player and you provoke them and do something like that? There has to be some rules when it comes to taunting. I think the refs can be lenient with them, but what Zay Flowers did yesterday was really stupid. It was a dumb move by Zay Flowers. You just can't do that. So I'm not going to sit here because a player makes a dumb decision and now say, oh, we got to get rid of the taunting rules. So NFL taunting rules should be eliminated in the playoffs? Absolutely not. Offside.
Offside.
Over the weekend, it was revealed that the Eagles have a new offensive coordinator following the departure of Brian Johnson.
Look at you wording that so nicely. Following the departure, they fired his ass.
They did fire him.
You're an amicably part ways guy. That's what you are still.
That sounds about right. So they fired Brian Johnson, and now it apparently is Kellen Moore who will be the next hire. As Cowboys OC from 2019 to 2022, Moore's offense ranked in the top four in points per game at 27.7, yards per game at 391, and third down conversion percentage at 44% during that span. Onside, offsides, hiring Kellen Moore as offensive coordinator is a good fit for Jalen Hurts' style.
So I don't think there's a more overrated offensive mind in football than Kellen Moore. And I know Stu just gave me all the stats, but this guy, right, he was supposed to get a head coaching job. They end up moving on from him in Dallas, and the Cowboys' offense got better. He goes to the Chargers. I know you could blame a lot of it on Brandon Staley, but they basically did nothing last year. So bringing in Kellen Moore as an OC is a good fit for Jalen Hurts' style. I will go offside, and the reason why is because I think the idea of Kellen Moore is extremely overrated. Now, when you're a coach on the hot seat, it's slim pickings who you could bring in as your coordinator. I guess if you want to take the best out of the worst that are available, then okay, Kellen Moore at least is respected and hyped up around the league. But I don't think all of a sudden this means just because Jalen Hurts turns it around, this is because of Kellen Moore. It's because Jalen Hurts is a good football player that just had an up and down season a year ago. So I'm not going to sit here now and say that Kellen Moore is going to be the reason and he's going to be the best fit to turn it around with Jalen Hurts. I'm going to go offside on that one.
Offside. Sticking with OC news, the Bills will reportedly keep Joe Brady. Actually, they won't reportedly. They will keep him as their man as he took over for the fired Ken Dorsey mid-season. Now, after Joe Brady took over in Week 11, Allen's rushing increased with 48 carries through the first 10 games. That jumped up to 83 in the final 9 games. And his interceptions per attempt also went down from 3.1% to 2.3%. So onsides, offsides, keeping Brady as the OC was the right move for the Bills.
I don't think it was the wrong move, so I'll go onsides on that. The team and the offense did get better. Josh Allen at times made better decisions. James Cook, who's going to join us tomorrow from the Buffalo Bills, had a monster season. I think they're starting to find a little bit of balance between them too. And also, let's just call it how it is. The Bills did this with a declining Stephon Diggs. And I know he gets paid as their number one wide receiver. I don't think he's the number one wide receiver anymore in the NFL. And I think the better days are behind Stephon Diggs. So I don't think, since they were able to find a way to recapture this, and you're going to bring McDermott back, I don't think you could have done a whole lot better than Joe Brady. Now, Joe Brady was one of those guys that when he was at LSU, lands at the NFL with the Carolina Panthers, right? He was supposed to be this next head coach in this league, and he hasn't progressed to that. But I think he did a fine job down the stretch, so I'm fine with them keeping Joe Brady as the OC with the Buffalo Bills. Onsides.
One last OC story, as the Steelers have interviewed former Falcons head coach Arthur Smith to fill their vacancy.
He annoyed me a lot this year, Arthur Smith.
While as Titans OC, he helped Ryan Tannehill win Comeback Player of the Year honors and led the Titans to a 12th and second place finish in offense in 2019 and 2020, respectively. Onside, offsides, hiring Arthur Smith as OC would unlock Kenny Pickett's potential.
So I think Arthur Smith as a head coach was bad. He tried to, and what is frustrating about this is sometimes you bring in an offensive guy and they can't connect with the defense. Well, the defense was really good last year for Atlanta. But in offense, you had all these weapons and you didn't utilize them correctly. And it was almost as if Arthur Smith, kind of like what Todd Monken did, he's trying to prove a point yesterday and how they were going to win. Arthur Smith was trying to prove a point that Desmond Ridder was more than a game manager when he's not a good quarterback. So now you're bringing in Arthur Smith potentially just to be the offensive coordinator. You know, it is an upgrade from having Matt Canada because of what Arthur Smith has done before in the past in this league, and it's led him to getting a head coaching job. But I don't think it's going to unlock Kenny Pickett reaching his full potential, because I think Kenny Pickett is just a guy in the NFL. I never think he's going to be the guy, even if you put him with a great offensive coordinator. So I don't believe just because you bring in Arthur Smith, assuming that's what they do, that would unlock Kenny Pickett to find a great level of play from him, because I don't think Kenny Pickett is a great quarterback in this league. So I will go offside with the question. Hiring Arthur Smith as OC would unlock Kenny Pickett's potential.
Offside. Right after our show on Friday, news came out that Michigan was promoting offensive coordinator Jerome Moore to head coach to replace Jim Harbaugh. Onsides, offsides, Michigan will win a national title with Jerome Moore as their head coach.
Well, now they go to 12 in the college football playoffs, so I think it makes it tougher. I think they're going to consistently be a national championship contender, but it is really damn tough to win a national championship. It will be now as open as it's ever been. I know Georgia's going to be the top dog in college football. Michigan now is without Jim Harbaugh as he's off to the Chargers. Nick Saban retired from Alabama, so they take a dent a little bit, even though I do believe Kalen DeBoer is a phenomenal coach. College football is open, but they just lost so many players that were a part of this championship team, so I have to see what the roster is going to be like moving forward. So you're basically asking me Sharon Moore or the field each and every year. As much as I like the hire of Sharon Moore and think it's the right hire, I'm going to take the field in this one. So you say Sherrone Moore will win a national championship at Michigan as their head coach. I will go offside, and I hope I'm dead wrong.
Offside.
The Lakers and Warriors battled it out on Saturday night in a double overtime game, which the Lakers won by a score of 145-144. Amazingly enough, it was the first matchup between LeBron and Steph-led sides in which neither of their teams were over 500 on this season. So onsides, offsides, both LeBron and Steph have won their final NBA titles.
So I'm going to answer this question with their current teams. Because, can Steph in 4 or 5 years still be a great shooter and latch on?
As a role player, is like the fourth best player.
Yeah, LeBron, he'll always... I don't know if LeBron will ever do the role player kind of role, but I think Steph and LeBron have both won their final championships in Golden State and the Lakers. LeBron, I could say that confidently in. And both of these guys weren't expected to win another title. Once KD left, not many people were picking the Warriors to win another title. When LeBron went to LA, no one was picking him to win a title. But with the Warriors, the reason why I have no more confidence that they're going to win another championship is they could have got out on Draymond Green. They didn't. Now they have a pending decision with Klay Thompson, and I do think they're going to let him go after this year, or they'll bring him back on a short-term deal. But I don't think that's really conducive to winning another championship. I just don't think this organization is ready to move forward, and they keep on wanting to pay guys for what they did in the past, and that's the wrong way to expand the championship window that should still be open for Steph Curry. So, yeah, I do believe onsides, both Steph and LeBron have won their final NBA titles with their current team. And finally.
And last one, sticking with the association, news came out over the weekend that Commissioner Adam Silver was nearing the extension that'll keep him in the job past his 10-year anniversary.
Help us all.
Onsides, offsides, the NBA is in a better place since Silver began as commissioner in 2014.
Not in my opinion. Spineless Silver, the most overrated commissioner out of the 4 major sports. He has done one thing that was a great thing and was a right thing, and that was getting that pig Donald Sterling out of the league. Outside of that, he's afraid of the players. The players have all the power. Now you got to play 65 games to win an award, for crying out loud. You got players still load managing and sitting out big marquee games like Joel Embiid up against the Nuggets the other night. And also, he created this Fugazi in-season tournament because we need more participation trophies getting handed out. And we had to raise a championship banner in LA. Stu, you know what? You're a Lakers fan. You know what it's like to win.
I do.
That in-season tournament banner is a disgrace.
Fraudulent.
It's an absolute disgrace. So the NBA is in a better place since Adam Silver began as commissioner in 2014, maybe financially. But in terms of on-the-court play, no. That's a no from me. Offside.
Offside.
And I'm sure JJ Redick's already hitting up the hotline at 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227 to tell us how great of a commissioner Adam Silver is and how I have an old school mentality even though I'm younger than JJ Redick. Big thanks to Ross Tucker. Big thanks to Mike Golick. Big thanks to Stu Kovacs, Carlos Ortiz. Each and every one of you will be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Zach Gelb Show. We out. Have a great night. Bye-bye. Peace.